The West has called for unrestricted access of Russian food and fertilizers to global markets, while at the same time slamming Moscow for allegedly exacerbating a hunger crisis in recent months in impoverished parts of the world.
There is no effective solution to the food crisis without reintegrating Ukraine's food production, as well as the food and fertilizer produced by Russia and Belarus, into world markets despite the war. And Russian food and fertilizers must have unrestricted access to world markets without indirect impediments.
Some have tried to blame the sanctions imposed on the Russian Federation by the United States and many other countries for worsening this crisis. This is false.
Russia is leading its war with another terrible but more silent weapon: hunger and deprivation. Russia has launched a grain war, stocking a global food crisis.
But while UN Chief Guterres has blamed Russia's actions in Ukraine for worsening global food shortages, Russia has outlined that the measures in it have put in place regarding food exports are aimed at protecting the domestic market in the face of Western sanctions, saying it's actually the West that is responsible for the crisis.
Food security has been undermined for several years by the illiterate macroeconomic steps of the collective West. They were escalated in connection with a wave of unilateral and illegitimate anti-Russian sanctions, which undermined confidence in Western governments because of the unpredictability of their actions, as well as disrupted supply chains and created disruptions in international financial flows. The statements by Western officials that their bans do not affect the supply of food and fertilizers are deceitful.
Russia and Ukraine produce almost a third of the world's wheat and half of the sunflower oil, with Russia also being the world's #2 producer of potash, a key fertilizer ingredient. Now, the hindered supply lines have contributed to emerging humanitarian crises in some nations. In Iran, food prices have risen by 300%, fueling outrage at the government.
The change in prices is horrible. The new prices have limited my family's purchasing power on everything.
The price changes have greatly affected everyone, not just us. Prices of meat, eggs, and fruit have all gone up drastically. Prices rise within hours.
Iranians make most of their meals with flour, rice, or wheat. Even for us, a middle-class family, the new prices are very high.
The weaker class ate macaroni instead of meat and chicken. Now even that macaroni is taken off their dinner table. We have to eat plain bread. And they are even rationing that plain bread too.